Hiya! I just want to see how we could plan a Shabbos for 10 people. This is just a little bit of pencil and paper exercise, but maybe you never plan for a large group and how to cook it as efficiently as you can. Here's my thought process. Let's see if you like it. Step number 1, write down your recipe. Step number 2, plan all the stuff you need. And then step number 3, go start cooking. Let's just take care of the first couple steps. So let's do a little bit of menu planning. We have a vegetarian coming, so I'm going to make a vegetable soup. I have 2 chickens, a London broil. I'm going to make some tofu as a main for our vegetarian friend. And for side dishes, I'm going to make some kasha and noodles. It is Parshas Beshalach this week, so we're going to do something with kasha. And a couple cups of rice. So that is the menu. Now let's go look at what would this mean if we were to actually plan it in the cooking process. First off, making a quantity of 10. So number 1, how many? That's about 10. Really, it's not. It's about 11 guests, 9 adults, 2 kids. Let's just call it 10. So figure out how many people you're planning for. Then you got to look at what are you making? That's this list over here. What do you need to make it? So you've got utensils. So your pots and pans that are going to get occupied. And then you have things you can make on a stove. And you have things you're going to make in the oven. And you have to make sure what temperature you're going to be cooking things on. If you have things that can cook at the same temperature, you can put them in at the same time. If they need to be low and slow, you can't put on something on broil. So what do we have here? So really, I got kind of a soup pot. Let's just call that 6 quarts. And I got a larger stock pot. Let's call that 8 quarts. You can get any sheet trays. Let's just call it, can't remember the numbers, 12 by 18, 14 by 18. On the sheet trays, what's going to get made on the stove, what's going to get made on the oven. So we have kasha, noodles, rice, soup. Oven, we're going to do chickens. Going to do a London broil. The tofu, probably in the oven, but maybe I might do some of it on the stove. I'm going to put it in a tomato sauce. Tofu, I want to dry it out a little bit so that it stays together a little bit better when you cook it. So this is really probably about 250 to 300 degrees Fahrenheit. That is kind of low and slow for about an hour or so. Let's just call it an hour. Make it easy. London broil. This is broiled. So that is broiled for probably 20 minutes. Chickens, my go-to these days has been cooking it at 500 for 25 minutes and then 350 for about 10 minutes. That's how I've kind of worked it. So that's kind of on the oven. So if I want to look at how am I going to do in the oven, tofu needs to go in separately. The London broil and the chicken should go in kind of back to back. So what I'm going to do is I will probably start the London broil first. Take care of that for 20 minutes. That's on broil. And then right after that, I'm going to put in the chicken because the oven temperature is going to be above 500. So then we'll be able to take the chicken, put it in the oven for 25 minutes, and turn it down to 350 and finish it off. And then we got to figure out, do I want to put the tofu in after or before? May not make a difference. But let's see what else we got. What's going on over here on the stove? So I've got a stock pot and a larger soup pot. Now I need to make kasha noodles and rice, and I actually have a smaller pot. Let's call it a 1 quart pot, and I can make the kasha in. So, and I have 5, and at home I have 5 burners on a stove top. So you can also plan out how many things can I cook at once if I can use separate pots. So the oven looks like it's mostly taken care of. But what we're gonna do for what can you do for kasha? So we have this is a small burner, this is a small burner, this is a large burner, this is a large burner. This one barely works. Deal with it. Kasha. Kasha can go, so we can put up kasha over here. That can cook in about 15 minutes. So noodles is going to need, so this will be where the kasha is. Noodles can go in a bigger pot over here. So let's put the noodles over here and cook it that way. And then rice. 2 cups of rice would barely fit into here, and would really would go into here as a better bet. So, but what I'm going to do here is, I need to use this pot twice. One for noodles, one for rice. I'm going to make the noodles first, because then I've already boiled the water. So if you have boiled water, and if you want to, when you strain the pasta, you can strain the hot water back into your 6-quart pot and then put your rice in. And so you've saved yourself a little bit of time and a little bit of effort. So what we're going to do is start the kasha, start the noodles. After the noodles are done, we're going to put in the rice. Now, that will take care of kasha, noodles, and rice. I think the soup, because this pot's going to be used up twice, I think just for time and efficiency, and it's a little bit easier to cook it in an 8-quart pot and then finish it off. I need to puree it, and then I'm going to probably for Shabbos put it in here to keep it warm for Friday night. So that's what we're going to do. Cook it in here and then use that at the end for over here. So I'm going to use this pot 3 times. I'm going to use this. So the 6 quart is going to be 1 for noodles, then for rice, and then to heat the soup after it's cooked. That's how we'll work it. So we can get our kasha going, our noodles going, then our rice going. So again, this is probably 15 minutes. This is probably 20 minutes, followed by another 20 minutes, and then we can get the soup on whenever we feel like. We can put that here on our large burner for soup, and then transfer that when we're done. So we can get several of these going in parallel process. We can get all of these things up. We can get all the kasha, the noodles, and then the rice. We could do that either while the tofu is just kind of in the oven, or while the chicken and the London broil are cooking and get moving a little bit. So while the tofu is there, it's very hands off. You can kind of work on all this. So that's actually how I may go about it. Put the tofu in first, get the sides out of the way, and then when the oven's free, I can then go back up and then I can just put it on broil and take care of the London broil and the chicken. So then you can kind of look at this process and say, what I'm gonna have is about 20 minutes plus 25 minutes. That's 45 minutes plus another 15 minutes. That's about an hour. Give yourself some lead time, some prep time. I forgot, give yourself a little bit of leeway. So give yourself about, let's call it 1.5 hours, 90 minutes or something on high in the oven. 1.5 hours on high in the oven, and then you're gonna need another. And we'll start off there with, say, like 1 hour on low, and then in parallel to this, we can do kasha and noodles, and then that might feed into a little bit of rice. Now you're going to have some prep work in here. There's going to be some vegetables that I'm going to cut for the tofu. I want some fresh vegetables. I'm going to want to put it in a tomato sauce. So we're going to use so there's going to be some prep time in here. So then we come back to combine the tofu. It'll either be on a stovetop in a big pot, or I may just do it in a 9x13 dish just to kind of keep it in one thing in the oven. Have a little bit less to clean, so it's all done and ready already in kind of a serving dish for Shabbos. Soup is probably an hour-long process. So then over here, let's do. This is a kind of soup for about one hour, and there's also prep time in here to cut the vegetables, do a little sautéing, and so forth. So so give yourself 20 minutes. Give yourself half an hour. Is that? So that's 1.5. That's 2. So that's 2.5 hours in the oven side, and that's probably also, this is call it 30 minutes, and an hour. So this is also probably about 2 hours on this side. Do them in parallel, kind of working back and forth here. So instead of doing just one thing at a time and making this entire preparation a 4.5, 5 hour deal, if you can be a little bit more efficient with your time and work one to the other, you can now do this in parallel and be done in about 2.5 hours or so and get all your Shabbos food ready. Putting this more into a plan. So if it's going to take about 2.5 hours to do all this, and how are we going to process it in parallel? So I've got the stove over here, I've got the oven over here. So let's get this started on the stove and get this started in the oven. So I'm first going to put up the tofu to brown. Then in parallel on the stovetop, I will get the kasha going, I'll get the noodles going, then I'll get the rice going, and I'm going to start my veggie prep. Let's just say I started at noon. So we do all that at noon. This will be done about 1 o'clock. This is about 10 to 15 minutes. This is about 15 to 20 minutes. This is 15 to 20 minutes as well. And there's a lot of downtime in there where we can do some vegetable prep for the tofu and the soup. So give yourself a little bit of leeway in there. So then let's figure around 1 o'clock, take the tofu out of the oven. I'm going to put it into a tomato sauce on the stove top. So that'll be there. And then as I'll prep that as well, I can also salt and pepper the London broil, keep it dry, get it ready to go into the broiler. So then I can broil this for 20 minutes. And let's just say that takes me to 1:30. Pull that out, get the chicken spiced and ready, put that in, cook that for the next, let's say, half an hour, 45 minutes. And while that's kind of cooking, get the soup up and going. And that will take you there, and that'll then take you from about 12. That'll be done around, let's just call it 2:30, 3 o'clock, and then you're done. Maybe you have a question. 10 people coming. How much do you make? So I like to be a little generous in my estimates, but overall, let's budget for about half a pound per person of Maine, and then maybe half a cup to 1 cup for any carbohydrate sides, rice, pasta, etc. So just my thinking is, if I'm having about 10 people over, I've got a 2-pound London broil. Let's say so then using that math, that serves 4 people. And I have 2, they're probably 3.5 to 4 pound chickens. And let's pretend we get 2 pounds each for a total of 4 pounds of chicken. 4 and 4 is 8. And I mentioned I had some vegetarians coming. So I made about a pound of tofu. Actually, I made about 2 pounds of tofu. So combine that all together, that should serve, if 2 pounds serves 4 people, if you get 4 pounds, half a pound, that'll give you about 8 people, plus a whole bunch of tofu. That's quite an extra amount. So if we have 4 people here, 8 people, let's say with meat mains, that's a little more, that's probably more than enough, but I like to have extras because I just do. Most everybody does. And let's just call it another pound of tofu, another pound or so of tofu for anybody who's vegetarian or just wants a little bit of a side dish as well for them. And that's pretty good. Now, as far as pastas go, I made half a pound of pasta. That's half a pound of uncooked, and then 2 cups of rice, which is going to give you about 6 cups cooked, and probably about the same over here. I think half a pound of pasta gets you about, every 2 ounces is about a serving. So that's 8 ounces over there. So that's about 4. So then that's about 4 servings, maybe another, and maybe 10 to 12 servings, depending how many people I need. But that should be enough for kind of a general ballpark. How much do I really need? So again, probably about 5 or 6 pounds of finished cooked meat for 10 people, and then probably about and then probably again about 6 to 8, 6 to 10 cups of some cooked pasta dish should be just fine for you. So that's about all. Thanks, bye.